Alan, some would say that parapsychology, ESP, call it what you will, even if not reproducible in a scientific sense, there's enough there, throwing out all the charlatans and the crowd psychologies, whatever, throwing it all out. There's a tiny bit of truth there, and then that is a window from the physical world to the non-physical world. What say you?
From my point of view, today's non-observable world may well be tomorrow's observable world. I don't know the answer to parapsychology. I don't know whether, in fact, extrasensory perception is not a possibility. All I know is there's no evidence, no scientific evidence, either to document that it really does occur or the mechanisms that would underpin it. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible to be. All things are ultimately possible. The question is, will we be able to prove it? Will we be able to demonstrate it, measure it, observe it, and then ultimately be able to explain it? Many, many phenomena that are unexplainable yesterday are today's common sense. So I think science has an obligation to be open to any question that can be answered using scientific methods.
The issue is that some would say that the nature of this phenomena doesn't quite lend itself to the reproducibility of the scientific method, that there are anomalous phenomena that are like spike function phenomena that can't be reproduced in the same normal way. And that clearly is would be an aberration from traditional science. Is that something that can be admitted within an enlarged science arena?
I'm more ready to say something is not a scientific question or that we can't ask it scientifically today than I am to say, I can't answer that question, therefore I'm going to bend what's science. I think once you start to muck with what is and isn't science, then you are diminishing the ability of science to answer the questions it can and stay away from the questions that it can't answer. And I think we all, especially the scientific community, have an obligation to protect the integrity of the scientific enterprise, what is science and what isn't science, and stay within our limits. So if we can't answer a question today, maybe we can answer it tomorrow. We'll answer to you whether we have an answer when we find out whether we can answer it.
Does that mean that science has an obligation to watch, if you will, those areas which may indeed fall within its orbit as the methodology and techniques of science improve?
I think that happens automatically. I think the fact is that scientists are human and they walk around the world and they see interesting phenomena. And as they see ways in which science can be applied to unanswered questions, they automatically start working on those kinds of questions. But most good scientists know what today's limits are, and they focus their energies on today's questions. Tomorrow's questions likely are going to be inconceivable to me today. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe that those questions will be answerable.
Parapsychologists who talk to me have this relationship with the scientific community that is strained, and they feel like they are not treated as real scientists. The scientific community has occasionally said that we should embrace this and study it, and then other times have said, keep away.
The issue has to do with methodology. The definition of what is and isn't science is the domain you're studying, a natural explanation of the natural world, and whether you are using observable, measurable, reproducible techniques to get answers to askable questions. It's pretty straightforward and it's pretty simple. The times when parapsychologists have tried to answer those questions, sometimes they're acceptable to science, and sometimes scientists say your interpretation is going too wide. 20 years ago, when I was at the National Science Foundation, I actually was designated the official contact for the parapsychology community. But I have to tell you, we never got proposals to do those kinds of systematic study of called parapsychological phenomena. I spent many years at the National Institute of Mental Health and the National Institute on Drug Abuse. People would make all kinds of claims for various substances or various phenomena. Test it out. Ask the question scientifically, subject it to peer review, then we'll talk about whether it's science or not.
And the comeback from some people in at least parapsychology is that sometimes phenomena are not reproducible in the traditional way. Is that a cop-out?
Feels like a cop-out, reproducible in the traditional way. I don't actually know what that means in English, let alone in science.
Well, I mean, it means that sometimes there are phenomena that occur that are real phenomena that cannot be reproduced on demand.
Okay. So maybe it's not studyable scientifically, but don't cloak it in the mantle of science if it's not science or scientifically testable. We don't, science has so much credibility. Science is so powerful a phenomenon that we don't want to inadvertently or intentionally give things the appearance of science when they're not. In the same way that scientists have to be careful not to claim that they can answer questions they can't. The rest of the world can't claim that they are science when they're not.